Hello, Monsters Abound here. Zephon is a game that's currently in the Steam Fest, assuming I get this video out in time. If not, I think the demo is still probably going to be available. This is a turn-based 4X game, Civ war-like, bit like Gladius 40k. In fact, very much like Gladius 40k because it's made by the same developer. And this game is about the last vestiges of humanity trying to survive on a post-apocalyptic Earth. But what apocalypse, I hear you ask? Well, turns out some aliens turned up, hell-bent on delivering the good word of their Lord and Saviour, Cthulhu. Majority of humanity reacted to this by shuffling off their mortal coils, leaving the remnants to deal with the alien horrors that had been unleashed. But have no fear, as humanity had weapons of their own, which promptly turned against them and kept fighting anyway. So, from what I can tell, the AI, the Skynet in this war, is effectively the aforementioned Zephon. That's a title character, right? Skynet, but slightly less genocidal. I did say slightly. While the aliens and the AI fought to a standstill, humanity got out the popcorn and had a front row seat to the end of the world. Or they would have, had they had any popcorn or water, or not been dying in droves. Anyway, sometime after the end of the world, it seems like the Acrin, the alien Cthulhu botherers, and Zephon has settled down into a stalemate, and now humanity can attempt to retake the world. There's various different factions you can pick from. You've got the three sisters slash the mother, the crone, and the maiden, I think, they're Cthulhu guys. You've got the non-genocidal AI, immortal American man, fat rich bloke, and many, many more. Depending on the faction you select, you may have early research for specific types, be that cyber, the voice, which is Cthulhu, or humanity. This is the main problem with the game in my opinion. While it's got a wealth of units you can recruit and you can specialise, the difference between the factions is their abilities and traits, which are mostly fairly low impact. We're going to go for the triumvirate. We're going to go for the three ladies, the three Cthulhu ladies, and they're all about horrible tentacle monsters. Great. So as this faction, we start off with these alien riding cavalry guys. Why wouldn't you at the end of the world during an apocalypse decide to ride a weird alien horse into battle with a spear? Sounds very sane. We also have some engineers who can construct cities and build improvements. We quickly construct our city and start claiming the surrounding territory. The idea is you claim a tile and then you construct buildings on that which provide you with resources. Our military units, such as they are, scout the surrounding terrain for goodies such as supplies and landmarks, like the crashed Acrin spacecraft, which will provide us with resources and even more bonuses if we subsume it into our city. We quickly run into some Acrin remnants, who are the aliens who invaded. Unfortunately for them, only one thing goes through my head when I see the name Acrin.
Yeah, and he said if I didn't drink lots of milk, when I grow up, I'm going to be good enough to play for Accrington Stanley. Accrington Stanley! Who are they? Exactly.
We get them surrounded and pick them off. But where there's one, there is likely more. Constructing improvements with unacquired city tiles, which provides us with resources, is really important. I do think this game, and Gladius by extension, are really good at balancing resources. You never feel like you quite have enough. You always want more. It's very nicely balanced like that. Research is split into tiers, which require a certain number of researches to be unlocked before you can move on to the next tier. You can show or hide specific types of research, be that cyber, voice, or human. So if you want to specialise in voice, you can turn off the other text, so you're only seeing the voice text and the general text that everyone gets. The map looks really nice and the terrain is really important. This weird pink stuff is Cthulhu tentacles called Bleed, which is obviously bad juju. Unless you are a Slavering monster or into that shit, you probably want to stay away. While the grey tagged units are general barbarians who will fight anyone, there are three minor factions always on the map along with any human factions. These are Zephon, a megalomaniac AI, the Chiefess, an unhinged Mad Max Reaver, and Anchorites, the Acrin Stanley. These minor factions still expand and will be a threat or maybe a boon depending on how they perceive you. Everyone starts at war with everyone else, but with some words and resources we can make friends even with the alien High Sparrow here. Different unit types require different resources. The voice units mostly require algae. Luckily, we set up our city right next to an algae landmark which will provide us with a nice bonus and allow us to recruit and support more hideous, mind-shattering monstrosities, which is nice. We pay to make friends with the Acrin because we also love the gentle caress of a slimy tentacle, so we've got a lot in common, and maybe we can borrow their hentai collection. They have 2 settlements spread across the map. The minor factions do, not sure why. They seem to expand, but that might be just to replace lost settlements. We fight as one. Occasionally we will get events pop up, and this is one of the strongest parts of the game, and I hope they lean more heavily into this aspect. The world building is great, and depending on who you are, research, and your allies, you can respond in different ways. So far, most of the events have just led to having to survive waves of enemies, which is fine, but I'm hoping there may be multi-stage events or even map-wide effects. In this event, we decide to sell off pharmaceuticals that we've looted from a cargo liner. Unfortunately, the merchants who we sold them to immediately sell them on to a bunch of reavers, who, having bought them, immediately get sky high off their balls and are so desperate for more, they launch themselves at our capital. Fortunately, our capital can hold its own. I don't know who suggested we strap rocket launchers to the top of the city, but give that guy or gal a raise. In the meantime, we also picked up a hero unit. These are units that can level up and have abilities. They tend to cost influence, which is a resource that we won't have a lot of early on. We have recruited the Whisperer of Goldroach, which is a floating lady with a tentacle attack and the ability to summon deformities, who are basically zombie ghouls, fast zombies, who slowly die over time after they've been summoned, but have the ability to create more of themselves if they kill off biological units. This is pretty useful. She can also heal, and eventually she gets like a charging her laser attack, which can take a huge chunk out of anything in her way, but with a fairly hefty cooldown. We summon some deformities and quickly turn the tide with their ability to make more of themselves. We'll utilise this quite a bit.
Discuss.
The raider attack is beaten back and we meet up with the title character, Zephon. It's currently ambivalent, which is good, but it's not a fan of tentacles. Prude. We sue for peace for the moment, but we're probably going to have to kill it later. Soon after, we meet up with Leah, one of the 2 major AI factions. Leah is the emulated mind, a human uploaded into a machine before the apocalypse and now worshipped by her followers. She's a bit scatty, but wants to be our BFF right off the bat, so that's a win. She's well in with Zephon though, so we're going to have to toe the line carefully. Despite our careful dealings with Acrin and Stanley, they still declare war on us. Why? No idea. The diplomacy in this game is odd. Factions will like you or dislike you, seemingly regardless of what you seem to do with them. While that's going on, Leah is desperate for us to be friends with Zephon and keeps asking us to make trade deals with them, so we do. I guess we're on the side of the AI now, as we begin our assault on the Acrin who have spurned us. If they won't allow us to borrow their extensive tentacle hentai library, then we shall take it by force. To aid us in this endeavour, we recruit the Dark Vassalail. Vassalail? A horrific amalgamation of flesh constantly weeping goo everywhere. It can spew goop at a long range to horrify enemy units and cause them a steep morale loss. They also have an amazing ability which you have to research, that is a must get for this unit. We'll talk about that in a second. In the meantime, we come across the Chiefess to our east. A horde of cannibals and reavers is going to be hard to break through. Fortunately, they'll stay near their base, so after finding them, we pull back to concentrate our armies to the west. I said the Dark Vassalail had a neat ability, and here it is. Create Socraterus lair? So what is a lair, I hear you ask? Well, it's this. Our dark thingamajig hocks up a giant tumour, which in turn can spit out 3 deformities. Both the lair and the deformities are on a 10-turn cooldown, but the lairs exist forever, so once you hock up a lair, which you can do every 10 turns, the lair can spawn 3 deformities every 10 turns, and deformities make more of themselves by killing stuff. Do you see where this is going? This is a zombie horde generator. We create another Dark Vassalail and more lairs pop up, which means more deformities. Initially we are pushed back by the Acrin, but eventually our numbers begin to turn the tide. With the Acrin forces scattered, we make for their city. Cities are tough and can sustain multiple turns of assault by themselves while boosting the units nearby. This can make breaking one tough, unless you've got a literal horde of zombie monsters. After surrounding the city and spawning more lairs and more deformities, we bring down the city with the help of Leah, who has sent some long-range artillery to assist from across the sea. With the Acrin dealt with, we push further west and find another Chiefess base. Seeing as we have the momentum, we decide to wipe them out with the help of another hero unit which we can recruit, the elect of Uzhadai, a giant monster with bone blades for arms covered in salvaged plate armour. This thing is a wrecking ball with the ability to teleport, swap places with another unit, increase its defence when surrounded, and hit stuff really hard. The Chiefess is located across a choke point, which is going to be hard to break through, but with enough grit, spunk, and millions of zombie monsters, I think we can do it. Despite the Chiefess throwing everything she has at us, it's just increasing the number of deformities, and we secure the other side of the choke point, and a lovely flesh tree. This thing gives you the ability to increase your population every so often, because meat? Don't ask what the meat is made out of, or is. You don't want to know. Meanwhile, Leah and Zephon are making gains against the final Acrin settlement in the south. It's nice to see them so buddy-buddy. Be nice to see them killing each other though, because Zephon is not happy with us. The obvious strategy is to weaken the enemy units with our non-deformity units and then finish them off with deformities to spawn more deformities. This works terrifyingly well, especially as you're spawning more lairs at the same time, creating more deformities, creating a deluge to drown your enemies in misshapen bodies. While to the south, the final Acrin settlement falls, leaving Zephon little to do and Leah twiddling her robo-thumbs. Unless we offered Leah a bunch of resources to kill Zephon for us? Well, who knew that would work? Immediately the two of them lay into each other. A full-scale war erupts between the two once allies. The Chiefess's settlement of Broken Knuckle is surrounded and torn down. She is none too happy about it. With the Chiefess to our west destroyed, we begin to move our forces east to deal with her other settlement. However, our lairs and deformities are costing us resources and no longer useful where they are. So they are disbanded and only our core units move west. Leah starts to make gains against Zephon, driving the AI back step by step. We recruit some engineers to build a new city. We need quite a bit of resources to do that. You don't actually need a load of cities in Zephon, and that's actually quite a nice change from the other 4X games where it's literally carpet the map with cities. Looks like the Chiefess wants revenge and sends some Reavers our way. We push them back and begin spawning deformities to recreate our hordes. Looks like she's set up a new settlement nearby. We'll need to kill that off. The cliffs around this area are causing us real problems. I love how important terrain is in this game. Holding choke points and using long-range units or flying units to support your defense or attack is really satisfying, makes you feel very smart. Despite our tribulations with cliffs, our deformities soon start to push the Reavers back and towards Saltbane. While we're concentrating on voice units, the Cthulhu monsters, Leah is concentrating on cyber units, that's the AI units. That's not to say we couldn't recruit cyber units or indeed human units. We would need to build the relevant barracks and research the relevant techs and have the relevant resources, but it's possible. You don't need to, as this faction, recruit just voice units. I've just decided to. Our second city's up, and I want to build this into more of a research city, plus generating some resources we're lacking, allowing the first city to concentrate on unit recruitment. The main blocker to just expanding wildly is that each city after your first reduces the loyalty in your cities, which means you need to then have buildings that increase loyalty to make them allow them to provide the resources they need. So having lots and lots of cities isn't really that useful, because it just means you need to fill up slots with buildings that overcome the fact that you have lots of cities. The Chiefess sent another wave of Reavers from Choked Vale to assist in the defence of Saltbane. They'll need more than that to save them, and Saltbane is blown into chunks. However, they now have Wasted Pass to sell, so we need to take out Choked Vale and Wasted Pass to defeat her. I'm not entirely sure whether these minor AI factions expand willy-nilly, or whether they always have two settlements, and if you destroy one, they just build another one. Meanwhile, Leah has Zephon surrounded and is pounding its core with rockets and laser fire. The Chiefess is overwhelmed with hordes of deformities and our brand new friend. I call him Mr. Handsy. He's a transport who picks up units. Literally, he picks them up and carries them around. Mr. Handsy doesn't seem that fast and he isn't that killy, but he can heal units around him with a gentle touch of his many and large hands. Zephon and the Chiefess are wiped out, and me and Leah are still thick as thieves, which means we just need to find the other major AI. Seeing as there is a large section to the south we've not discovered, my bet is they're probably down there. We head south through the forest, and it's going to take ages to trudge through this. Reinforcements will take quite some time to reach us through this heavy terrain. But I was right. We find our final foe. Seth, the fallen soldier, is just a guy that can't die for some reason, who wants humanity to get things back to normal. Unfortunately, he's got to go. Double unfortunately, he's had the entire game to build up by himself, being that he hasn't really had to deal with any of the major or minor AI factions like me and Leah have. Dixon is their capital, and we've blundered right into it. While initially he was throwing himself at Leah's forces, as soon as we come across his capital, they double back with gusto. He's got several of these Valkyra. They are a hero mech unit, think Gundam, and they pack a punch. But they can also fly, so our deformities can't eat them. We're going to need some backup, especially because as a hero unit, they can equip items, and they have. Reinforcements is what we need, so we pick up the Creeler Disciple, some weird cultists with a range attack, several powerful abilities. They're frail, expensive, take ages to build, but can do some really nasty stuff like increase damage taken by an enemy unit for several turns, which will prove useful against those damn mechs, and they can also speed our units up. The Galleon Worms can burrow, and they also have a range vomit attack which reduces armour. They're also quite fragile, but their armour debuff will prove vital against these goddamn mechs. And finally the Fallen Orolos, giant monsters with weird heavy organic cannons which pack a punch. They move quite slowly though, and through the forest it's going to take a while before these guys reach our lines. The Valkyra are slowly dispatched, but not after some losses on our side. Once they are dealt with, we take down his capital city. Fortunately, while we did have to deal with those mechs, it gave Leah plenty of time to take out the rest of Seth's forces, meaning we just need to mop up the survivors. A final Valkyr and some armour stand in our way past Old Nipton. We summon the Dream Eater, a special summon unit that lasts only 5 turns but can mind control enemies who had low morale. Summoned into the midst of the fallen soldiers' army, it causes confusion and chaos, allowing us to concentrate on bringing down the city itself. We finally end the fallen soldier and claim victory as an alliance. So that's the demo of Zephon. I really love this game. My only concern is that Gladius is pretty similar in many respects and has a lot more variety in factions. I hope they really push for the world building, events and so on to make it unique. If you've never played Gladius before, I urge you to try it out, and the demo of Zephon is probably still on Steam, so give it a go. Try out some of the other characters and different build strategies. Thank you very much for watching.